Historically, unrestricted grazing is known to have been a destructive force on the landscape. But at her ranch in Eugene, Oregon, Val Kime is showing that the intentional and carefully timed integration of animals into woodlands can flip the script on the idea that cattle are inherently damaging to the natural environment. And you're about to see how grazing can be a force for good in restoring critical native habitat while still providing abundant food.
We moved out here in 2007 and the land was pretty overgrazed and not a lot of grass. It was so thick with oak and pines that you couldn't even walk through it. There wasn't enough light hitting the ground for all the native plants, flowers.
Oak habitats were historically cared for by indigenous peoples, using stewardship practices like cultural burning, which created the open conditions that allow oaks to thrive. Many tribal and indigenous people continue to use these practices today. However, oak woodland habitats like the one on Val's land are among the most endangered ecosystems in North America. Many that remain continue to deteriorate from overcrowding and shade from competing trees like Douglas fir. So Val partnered with an organization called the Long Tom Watershed Council to thin the overcrowded woodland for the health of the trees and understory, while also improving the forage and environmental conditions for her animals.
We were prime property for an oak restoration project. It opens up the canopy for plants to grow. They came in with native seed and seeded the following year. When the trees are thin, the pasture does get more sunlight, and so there is more forage of all kinds, including grasses. But one thing about cows, and maybe other animals too, is that they actually benefit from eating more than just grass, because some of these plants have certain things in them that help, reduce internal parasites, and so that's pretty beneficial to animals, because parasites, can be a huge problem. So that mixture of sun during some parts of the day and shade during other parts of the day, you can see that, the grass is much greener and healthier for a longer period of time. So in late summer, out in the open pastures, the grass is, gone dormant and it'll just be brown. And when it's in the shade of a tree, you still have green grass. So in late summer, where are the animals? Well, they're under a tree and the grass is still green.
Val uses carefully timed rotational grazing patterns to actually help restore the native understory, resulting in a beautiful array of wildflowers.
We've been doing rotational grazing here, where you move them around small areas, along your pasture, and then they can't come back to that spot until the grass is grown. Some of the old ways of grazing was that, you have a 30-acre field, you put the cows out there and they just stay there. And by doing that, especially during the springtime, what they do is they eat the grass that they like. Then they move on and find more grass that they like, but then they come back once the grass starts growing again and eat that new growth again, when they should really be allowing it to grow to 5-6 inches or more. If you don't leave any green grass for it to photosynthesize, it's not going to grow back. And so what you have growing back is all the undesirable plants that animals don't want to graze. The rotational grazing, you're giving the pasture, the grasses, a rest and time to grow before animals can come back and graze it. I have a little single electric hot wire that I put out on little temporary fences. The cattle stay in that spot until they've grazed the grass, and then you move them on to the next little plot. There's certain times of year you don't want to graze because the native flowers are setting their seed, and you want their seed to mature before animals come through and graze it down, and then these new plants will grow. And then also there's a benefit of the animals trampling those seeds down into the ground. Seeds need to hit dirt before they can germinate, so that kind of helps with the regrowth of the native plants also. If you didn't have animals here grazing it, then invasive species could take over. Otherwise, it may look the same in 10 years as it did before you had your restoration project. We teamed up with a woman from Oregon State University to do some grazing studies. What we've done is segmented 3 acres. Part of it is a no graze, they never graze. Another part is they can graze as the vegetation is tall enough to graze. The other part is they only graze during the dormant season. That would be like from July through March. And then the 4th spot is They graze during the growing season, which would be April through June or July. Right now we're in the no graze. And what we've noticed on this spot right here is that without grazing, there doesn't seem to be as much vegetation and there's not as much variety in the plant life. In this area, this is where the animals had an opportunity to graze during the dormant season. So that would be, July or later, and the seed had set or matured by then. And so as they're grazing, they're maybe knocking the seed, off the stalk, and it's hitting the ground. And they're walking on it, and then it gets pushed down into the soil a little bit. And so you see more diversity in plant life. And right here, this is a checker mallow. This one they call a cat's ear. This one here is a camas that's already gone to seed, and will have a blue flower. The yellow one there is one of the variety of Lamation. Oregon State, they were doing their master forester training, and they came out here when they were doing the oaks. He had counted 75 native plants, on our property. And that was only in a couple of hours of looking. It's pretty remarkable.
Val's project provides great hope for the future of oak habitats on grazing lands because it shows that the restoration of this endangered forest type can be done in synergy with ranching.
It's better for the wildlife, better for the soils, try to restore it to its native habitat.